For over 2 years, I was part of a team that designed, tested, and installed a first of its kind radome system, which for those of you who don't know, those white balls that are over top of things like around airports, those are called radomes. They protect radar systems. But no system had ever been designed that was this big. Instead of the ones at the airport that are like tiny, this was 150 feet tall. The project was called the SBX-1, right? This was a critical part of the U.S. ballistic missile defense system. It was designed to track incoming threats and tell the difference between real warheads meant to do the destruction and the decoys in space. The radar was enormous. The radar itself was 8 stories tall and emits extremely powerful signals. The radar is also extremely delicate, has to be protected from the elements at all times. Like a metal cover, like that was totally out of the question because the metal would have reflected the radar's intense energy back like a giant microwave disaster. Most conventional materials, they were either too reflective or too thick, rendering the radar ineffective. So we developed something that no one had ever done before. It was a lightweight, weatherproof, fabric-based dome able to transmit the high-frequency radar while withstanding the brutal ocean conditions, including hurricane-force winds, for where it was getting installed. Our system had to be flexible, yet precise, strong, yet invisible to the radar. And it had to last 20 years in constant salt and wind out on the ocean. So shout out to the team that created it because guess what? This past May, it just hit its 20-year mark. Nice job, squad. But my role back in the day was I was a field leader on installation and testing teams. And because of my rock climbing background, I often took on the high exposure tasks, which is code for way up high in the air. And this project had no shortage of opportunities to get high above the air. Like I said, the dome itself was 150 feet tall. It sat atop a modified oil platform, which was like another 150 feet above sea level. So you do the math, hundreds of feet in the air out on the water. So on installation day, I found myself leading a crew of about a dozen iron workers. We were dressed and ready up before dawn, standing on an 18-inch wide catwalk that ringed the entire radar structure. We were waiting to attach lines as the massive uninflated dome was lifted by crane over top of us. Our job was to secure over 30 guidelines and toss them down to the crews down below. That way the crews could tension them and pull the dome open and it could come down over the radar. We were under strict orders not to damage the sensitive radar equipment. Like no pressure, right? So at first things were going smooth. And as the sun began to rise, the winds that had been calm started to pick up because now got behind schedule. And just as we got everything connected, the winds picked up, which meant the fabric dome, which was not inflated yet, which was larger than a football field, was suspended all around us, sagging and billowing in the rising wind. The geometric seams that we created the dome with, they were backlit now by the morning sun and began undulating like waves. Like it was beautiful, but it was completely disorienting. So with no visual reference of the horizon, vertigo set in for my team fast. Like our footing became unreliable, especially like on the padded platforms that were surrounding the radar surface. And now this slack fabric was like starting to press down around us, threatening to contact and possibly damage the radar. Like we couldn't stand and push it away because remember, vertigo, we couldn't move that well. We were tied into our safety lines. All we could do is lay down flat and just push our boots out against the fabric to shield the system from damaging the radar and also tearing it apart on some of the structure around us. It was chaotic, it was surreal, and honestly, like it was terrifying. So eventually the winds calmed down enough. The dome was fully secured, and the giant inflation system eventually caught up, and the structure took its final beautiful round dome shape. And the dome was now floating over this radar as it has for 20 years, like a second sky around it. So that is one of the things that led to receiving my letter of commendation. That's what the recognition was for. But in the moment now, standing on that stage, surrounded by my peers and our company's executives, when they called my name, I froze. Not from pride, but from the fear of what if they realize I'm not as capable as they think. Other stories start circling in my head. What if this is the moment the mask finally falls off? Well, I received my letters of commendation, shook our company president's hand, and promptly stuffed those hard-earned letters in a manila folder. And that folder with those letters of commendation would live inside my desk for a decade. That's what imposter syndrome does. It robs you of your ability to absorb your own growth.